My dear friends, settle in while I share something that happened last autumn in San Francisco. You know, after 40 years of working security and watching people, I thought I'd seen everything. But that October evening at the Fairmont Hotel, well, it reminded me of what my mother used to say, "The meek shall inherit the earth, but first they've got to survive it." This is about Clementine Harper, a cleaning lady who'd been invisible for 20 years, and the night she became the most important person in a room full of millionaires. It's about how the good Lord works through the humblest among us, and why you should never, ever look down on the person who empties your wastebasket. They might just be the angel assigned to watch over you. The crystal chandeliers in the Fairmont Hotel ballroom, the same ones that survived the 1906 earthquake, mind you, cast their light over 500 folks dressed finer than Sunday service. But every eye was fixed on Clementine Harper, down on her knees with a scrub brush, working that marble floor like she'd done for 20 years. Only difference was, this time she was doing it center stage. The smell of pine sol cut through all that expensive perfume. I recognized it right away. Same industrial strength stuff they used at the VA hospital where I'd visit my brother Tommy. That smell meant someone was doing honest work while the rest of the world slept. Vespera Rowland stood above Clementine with a microphone, wearing a dress that cost more than my first house. Pretty thing, 26 years old, married to the boss. But something in her eyes reminded me of a trapped animal, desperate and mean. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vespera announced, voice sweet as honey but with something sour underneath. "I wanted you all to see what dedication looks like. This is Clementine, who has cleaned our offices faithfully for 20 years. Folks shifted uncomfortably. Some raised their champagne glasses, not sure if this was entertainment or something else. In my corner by the service door, I kept my hand near my radio, sensing trouble the way you can smell rain coming. Clementine's brush moved in steady circles, the rhythm of someone who'd found peace in routine work. Then she started speaking, quiet but clear as church bells. "Mrs. Eleanor Fitzgerald. October rent when Bill's cancer came back." The brush swept another arc across that fancy marble. "Young Marcus Thompson. Textbooks for his first semester at State College." Another sweep, another name. "The Rodriguez family. 3 months of groceries after the factory closed." I saw Vespera's smile flicker like a candle in wind. This wasn't going according to her plan. "Maria Santos, bus pass money for her citizenship classes." "Walter Graves." That was me. I stood straighter. "His granddaughter Emma's asthma medicine." That was true. Clementine had slipped me $200 last spring when Emma couldn't breathe right and Medicare wouldn't cover the new inhaler. "Ruby Hawkins, plane ticket home to Alabama for her mama's funeral." Each name landed heavy as stones in still water. Some folks in that fancy crowd started recognizing the names, their own employees, people they passed in hallways without really seeing. Nathan Blackwood, the big boss himself, pushed through the crowd toward his wife. His face had that look men get when they realize they've missed something important happening right under their nose. That's when Clementine's sleeve rode up. Lord have mercy, those scars. Burns, old ones, running from her wrist clear up to her elbow. The kind of scars that tell a story of walking through fire. Vespera's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on that marble floor with a sound like crystal bells. Her face went white as fresh bedsheets. "No," she whispered, but that microphone caught it, spread it across the whole ballroom. Clementine finally looked up, and I saw something in her eyes I'd seen before. The look of someone who'd been carrying a secret so long they'd almost forgotten the weight until they set it down. "Hello, baby girl," Clementine said, gentle as a lullaby. "I told you I'd always be watching over you." The whole room seemed to hold its breath. Vespera stood frozen as a deer in headlights, staring at this cleaning lady like she was seeing a ghost. "You," Vespera's voice cracked like dried wood. "You're the one who pulled you from that fire at St. Catherine's Orphanage? October 15th, 2004. Clementine set down her brush, folded her hands, calm as you please. You were wearing your pink nightgown, the one with butterflies on it. Now, I'd been there 20 years, seen a lot of things. But watching that young woman realize the person she'd brought here to humiliate was the same person who'd saved her life? Well, that was something that made even an old skeptic like me believe the good Lord has a sense of justice. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from.
Now, let's get back to the story.
The pine sol smell grew stronger as Vespera sank to her knees, that expensive dress pooling around her like spilled cream. Her hand reached toward Clementine's scarred arm, stopped halfway, trembled in the air between them. "May I?" Clementine asked, soft as my grandmother used to ask before hugging us grandkids. 20 years collapsed into that question. The woman who'd carried her through fire, asking permission to touch her again. "I remember your hands," Vespera whispered. Her throat worked like she was swallowing glass. "They were bleeding. The ceiling beam came down, but you wouldn't let go." "Hush now." Clementine's voice had that steady rhythm of someone who'd rocked babies to sleep. "That's done and past." Nathan Blackwood knelt beside his wife. I'd known Nathan since he took over from his father. Good man, but blind to anything that wasn't on a spreadsheet. "Vespera, what's happening? Who is this woman?" But Vespera couldn't answer. She was looking at Clementine. Really looking. The permanent stoop from decades of bending over mop buckets. The swollen knuckles that spoke of arthritis fought through every shift. The careful, shallow breathing of someone whose lungs had breathed too much bleach and ammonia over too many years. "Every Tuesday," Clementine said, settling back on her heels with a small grunt of pain. "You work until midnight, sometimes later. Order Thai food from that place on Mission Street. Pad CU, hold the peanuts." Vespera's breath hitched. "You were watching me?" "Every Tuesday I clean that floor. Make sure your wastebasket's empty before the food comes, so the smell won't linger. Crack the window because those fluorescent lights give you headaches." The crowd pressed closer. This wasn't the show Vespera had promised them. This was something else. Something that made my old bones ache with recognition. I cleared my throat, felt like I had to speak up. She had us all taking shifts, like a schedule, made sure someone was always nearby. "In case of what?" Nathan demanded. Clementine's eyes never left Vespera's face. "In case she needed us. That's what family does." Family. The word hit Vespera like a physical blow. Her hand flew to her chest, fingers clutching at her pearl necklace. But then she pulled out something else from beneath all that silk. Cheap metal, tarnished with age. A butterfly pendant. Clementine's composure finally cracked. Her mouth opened, closed, no sound coming out. "You sent this," Vespera breathed. "The day I aged out of foster care." That butterfly pendant caught the chandelier light, throwing little rainbows across Clementine's weathered face. Her fingers twitched toward it, then pulled back like she'd touched something hot. "Your mother gave you that," Clementine said, her voice steady as a preacher's on Sunday. "Grace Mitchell, before the sickness took her." The name hit Vespera like a slap. Her whole body went rigid. Mother. A word I'd heard her avoid for 3 years working there. Her fingers wrapped around that tarnished butterfly until her knuckles went white. "You knew her?" The question came out raw, scraping past her throat. "We worked together. St. Mary's Hospital, night shift, scrubbing surgical floors." Clementine's eyes got that faraway look folks get when they're seeing yesterday clearer than today. "Grace was 6 months along with you when she started coughing blood." Nathan's hand found his wife's shoulder. The crowd had gone quiet as a funeral parlor, everybody leaning in like they were afraid to miss a word. "She tried to hide it," Clementine went on. "Wrapped those bloody rags in plastic, threw them in the dumpster behind the loading dock. But I saw. Followed her one night when she stayed late. Found her collapsed by the service elevator, blood on her uniform. I remembered St. Mary's from when my Mary was born there, 30 years back. That loading dock where the ambulances came in, where folks went to smoke and cry and pray when the news was bad. Cancer had already spread to her bones, Clementine said. Doctor gave her 3 months. You came 2 weeks later, emergency C-section. 4 pounds, 3 ounces. Tiniest thing I ever saw fight so hard to breathe. She abandoned me. Vespera's words came out bitter as black coffee. Left me at St. Catherine's like I was nothing. She died. I had to speak up then. 2 days after leaving you there. I was working security at St. Mary's back then, filling in for a buddy. Watched her sign herself out against medical advice. She knew what that meant. Ruby Hawkins stepped closer, her supervisor badge catching the light. Clementine was with her at the end, held her hand while she wrote that letter. What letter? Vespera's voice cracked like old leather. Clementine reached into her uniform pocket, same faded blue polyester she'd worn every day I'd known her. She pulled out a plastic sandwich bag, the kind you'd pack a lunch in. Inside, notebook paper, folded and refolded until the creases had gone soft as cloth. 3 weeks ago, Clementine said, quiet-like, you found me teaching Maria how to read English in the executive bathroom. 2 a.m.
Remember what you said? The memory must have hit Vespera hard because she flinched. I'd heard about that night from Maria before she quit, how Mrs. Blackwood had caught them with a children's picture book, sounding out words together.
You said we were stealing company time, Clementine continued. Said people like us always take advantage. Maria ran out crying, lost her job, had to move back with her parents. Maria was trying to learn bedtime stories. Clementine's voice stayed level, no accusation in it. For her daughter, same age you were when I pulled you from that fire. Vespera's face had gone the color of old newspaper. Her hand pressed against her stomach like she might be sick right there on that fancy marble. That night, after you left, I sat in that bathroom thinking about Grace, how she'd be heartbroken to see what her baby had become.
Clementine's voice carried no judgment, just worn-out sadness.
So I decided it was time. Time to stop hiding. Time you knew the truth. She held out that plastic bag, and I could see her hand shaking just a little. First time I'd ever seen Clementine Harper shake. Vespera took it like it might explode. Through the cloudy plastic, you could make out handwriting, uneven and desperate-looking. Read it, somebody whispered from the crowd, but Vespera just stared at it, frozen. That letter weighed nothing and everything all at once. 27 years of questions and a few sheets of notebook paper. She wrote it while dying, Clementine said. Made me promise to give it to you when you were ready. I thought that would be when you'd grown successful, confident, kind. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Never imagined it would be like this.
The pine sol smell seemed to get stronger, or maybe that was my imagination.
Memory's funny that way. Sometimes a smell can take you back 20 years in a heartbeat. The fire, Vespera said suddenly, her head snapping up. The orphanage fire. That wasn't an accident, was it? Clementine went still as stone. Ruby and I looked at each other, and I felt my hand move to my old service revolver out of habit, even though I hadn't carried it in years. What do you remember about that night? Clementine asked, careful as a nurse with a needle. Someone was screaming. Vespera's eyes had gone glassy, seeing something the rest of us couldn't. About papers, about records. They were looking for something. She paused, and her next words made my blood run cold. Or someone. They were looking for me, weren't they?
Clementine's knuckles went white against that marble floor, pressing down like she was trying to anchor herself to something solid. The question hung in the air, thick as August humidity, the kind that makes it hard to breathe even with good lungs. They were looking for you, I said, breaking that awful silence. My voice came out rougher than I intended. Your mother's people. The Delacroix family from Louisiana. Nathan's grip on his wife's shoulder tightened. Delacroix? The shipping fortune Delacroix? Grace wasn't just some hospital cleaner, Ruby said, stepping into the circle of light. She was Grace Elizabeth Delacroix. Ran away from home at 17, pregnant with another man's baby.
Her family wanted their blood back, their air. Vespera's breath came in short gasps, like she'd been running.
That letter in her hands crinkled, the plastic bag crinkling louder than paper should in that quiet room.
They hired investigators, Clementine said. Each word measured, careful as medicine doses. Private detectives, the expensive kind. Tracked Grace to the hospital, but she'd already passed. Then they found out about St. Catherine's. Her scarred fingers traced invisible patterns on the floor. Nervous habit I'd seen her do during tough times, like when she'd had to identify Maria's bruises for the workplace incident report. October 15th, 2004, I continued, because somebody had to. 2 men in suits showed up at St. Catherine's with legal papers, demanded custody of any child connected to Grace Mitchell. Father O'Brien, tough old Irish priest, God rest his soul, he told them they'd need proper identification, DNA tests, court orders. Told them to come back in the morning with documentation. That night, Clementine's voice dropped so low folks had to lean in. The fire started in the records room. The temperature in that ballroom seemed to drop 10 degrees. Through the tall windows, I could see fog rolling in from the bay, thick and gray as smoke. Made me remember that night, how the fog had hidden the smoke until the flames were already through the roof. I was mopping the 3rd floor at St. Mary's, Clementine went on, her breathing getting that rattle I recognized from my wife's last months. 5 blocks away, but I saw that orange glow against the fog. Looked like hell had opened up a window. I ran. Lord help me, I ran faster than I'd run since high school. Her sleeve had ridden up further, showing more scars wrapping around her forearm like white vines on dark bark. Burn scars.
The kind that never stop hurting. Not really. Front door was already gone, just a wall of flame. Kitchen window was my only way in. Put my elbow through it, glass everywhere. Could hear children screaming upstairs. Sounded like... She stopped, swallowed hard. Sounded like angels crying. Several folks in that fancy crowd turned away. Someone's champagne glass clinked against their wedding ring, nervous fidgeting. You were in the corner room. Clementine looked straight at Vespera. 3rd floor, end of the hall. Door handle was glowing red when I got there. Had to wrap my uniform shirt around my hand, but polyester just melted right into my palm. I remembered polyester uniforms from my time at the factory before security work. That stuff didn't burn. It melted, stuck to skin like napalm. You were under your bed, Clementine continued, holding that butterfly necklace and a picture of your mama. Wouldn't come out. Kept saying, Mama promised she'd come back. Mama promised. Over and over like a prayer. Vespera's free hand went to that pendant around her neck, fingers tracing its shape. The ceiling was already burning, pieces falling like rain. I had to crawl under that bed with you, and honey, there wasn't much room. Got you in my arms just as the ceiling beam came down, landed across my back. Clementine shifted in her position, and for the first time, I noticed how she held herself. That permanent curve to her spine, the careful way she moved. 20 years I'd known her. Never knew she was carrying that kind of damage. But we made it to the window. Father O'Brien was down below with a ladder he'd found somewhere. I dropped you into his arms, then jumped. Broke my ankle on the landing, but Father O'Brien caught you, safe as could be.
The other children, Vespera whispered. Were they?
All got out, I said quickly. Father O'Brien and the night staff, they evacuated everyone. 23 children, all safe. But the records... I paused, remembering the aftermath. Everything burned. Birth certificates, adoption papers, medical records, all of it.
Including any proof of who you really were, Ruby added. The Delacroix family came back the next morning to find nothing but ash and smoke. No records. No proof you were Grace's daughter. Nathan pulled out his phone. These young folks and their phones, always checking facts like they don't trust human memory. His face went pale as skim milk as he read. Delacroix Shipping. Net worth over $8 billion. They own half the ports in the Gulf. He looked up at his wife.
Vespera, you're the heir to...
No. Vespera's voice cut sharp as winter wind. I'm nobody's heir. I'm just... She stopped, looked at Clementine. Why didn't you tell them? After the fire. You could have collected a reward, finder's fee. Lord knows you needed the money. Clementine's laugh came out as a wheeze that made me worry about her lungs. Give you to the people who burned down an orphanage full of children just to find you? People who thought 23 children's lives were worth less than legal papers? She shook her head, slow and deliberate. Grace didn't run all the way to California for that. She didn't want that life for you. What life? Vespera asked. What was so terrible that she'd rather die alone than go home? Clementine closed her eyes, and I saw her lips moving slightly, praying, maybe, or just remembering. When she opened them again, they were bright with unshed tears. Your mama wrote about it in that letter, the part I memorized because she made me repeat it back to her 3 times. She took a breath that rattled like beans in a jar. Let her grow up free. Let her choose her own name, her own path. Don't let them make her into what I couldn't be. The words hung there in the air, heavy as wet wool. So you watched over me instead, Vespera said slowly, like she was putting together a puzzle. 20 years of night shifts, cleaning my office, making sure I was safe. We all did. Marcus Thompson stepped forward from the crowd, still wearing his college backpack. Young man I'd helped get his textbooks. Smart as a whip, that one. Mrs. Harper organized us. We called it the Butterfly Network, after your necklace. More people started stepping forward. Joe from maintenance, who'd always fixed Vespera's car when it broke down. Betty from the coffee cart, who never charged her during her intern days. Tom from IT, who'd recovered her crashed computer with her whole thesis on it. All of you? Vespera's voice broke like a teenage boy's. This whole time? 43 of us, came a voice from the ballroom entrance. We all turned. Father O'Brien stood there, older than Moses and twice as stern, leaning on a carved wooden cane. The old priest walked slow and careful, his blue eyes milky with cataracts, but still sharp as tacks. Clementine recruited us over the years, he said, his Irish accent still thick after 60 years in America. Some directly, some who just heard about a little girl who needed guardian angels. He stopped in front of Vespera, reached into his jacket with a hand that shook with age, not fear. I remember the night you were born, he said. Grace called me from the hospital, crying so hard I could barely understand her. Said she was bringing God a gift, but didn't know if he'd accept damaged goods. That butterfly pendant seemed to pulse with Vespera's heartbeat, catching the light with each breath. I told her, Father O'Brien continued, that God doesn't make damaged goods, only human beings under construction. He pulled out a manila envelope, thick and yellow with age. Speaking of construction, Clementine doesn't know I have this. Saved it from my office safe before the fire reached it. He handed it to Nathan with those shaking hands. Your wife's original birth certificate. The real one. Nathan opened it with fingers that trembled like leaves, read aloud in a voice that got quieter with each word. Vespera Grace Delacroix. Mother, Grace Elizabeth Delacroix. Father. He stopped. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. The paper shook in his hands. What? Vespera grabbed for the certificate. What does it say? I saw her eyes find that line, saw her whole world tilt and reshape in that moment. The father's name was there in faded blue ink, clear as day. Harrison Blackwood, Nathan's father. That birth certificate floated down from Vespera's fingers like a dead leaf in autumn. Nathan stood there looking like someone had hit him with a 2x4. The paper landed on that marble floor, Harrison Blackwood's name staring up at us all. No. Nathan's voice came out strangled, like he was trying to swallow glass. My father. He couldn't. Father O'Brien's cane tapped against the floor as he shifted his weight, that sound sharp as a judge's gavel. Harrison Blackwood had an affair with Grace Delacroix in the summer of 1997. She was 17, working weekends at his country club in Palo Alto. He was 43, married, with a son in middle school. I watched the blood drain from Nathan's face. Boy looked like he might pass out right there. His wedding ring caught the light as his hand shook. 14-karat gold, I noticed, not the flashy platinum these young folks usually wore. When Grace got pregnant, Father O'Brien continued, steady as a funeral march, Harrison gave her $10,000 cash and a Greyhound ticket to California. Told her if she ever contacted him again, he'd have her committed to a mental institution. Said he had the lawyers to do it. Vespera pressed her palm flat against that cold marble floor, like she was trying to keep the room from spinning. The smell of pine sol mixed with her perfume, something French and expensive fighting with something honest and harsh. Nathan couldn't get the words out. His mouth worked like a fish on a dock. Half-siblings, Vespera finished for him. Her voice had gone flat as day-old soda. I'm your sister.
Lord have mercy. You could have heard a pin drop in that ballroom. Then the whispers started, spreading through that crowd like wildfire through dry grass. Somebody said something about calling a news station. I saw phones coming out of pockets and purses. Clementine struggled to her feet. I could hear her knees pop from 10 feet away. Stop, she said, and even though her voice was soft, it carried. They didn't know. How could they know? The marriage, Nathan said, and his executive composure cracked like ice on a pond. 3 years. We've been married 3 years. It's void, Dr. Pierce said quietly from somewhere in the crowd. Marriages between siblings are automatically void in California, even if they didn't know. Vespera laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Made my skin crawl, that laugh. Perfect. Just perfect. The ultimate humiliation. Better than scrubbing floors, isn't it? The cleaning lady's ward married her own brother. Don't. Clementine moved toward her, but Vespera scrambled backward, her fancy heels skidding on that marble. Don't touch me. Spit flew from Vespera's lips. You knew. You had to know. Harrison Blackwood's son? You cleaned his office for 20 years. You let me marry my own brother? I didn't know, Clementine said, and I could hear the pain in her voice, deep as marrow. The birth certificate burned in the fire. Grace never told me who the father was, only that he was married, powerful, dangerous, someone who'd hurt her if he knew where she was. I had to step forward then, had to speak my piece. I figured it out 6 months ago. Saw Harrison at the company Christmas party. Saw how he looked at you, Mrs. Blackwood. The way guilty men look at their sins when they think nobody's watching. 6 months? Nathan's voice climbed like a tea kettle starting to whistle. You knew for 6 months and didn't tell us? Harrison had liver cancer, I said, keeping my voice level, even though my heart was hammering. Stage 4. Doctors gave him 3 months. He lasted 2. Died before I could figure out what to do with what I knew. Ruby pulled her phone from her pocket, one of those smart ones her kids got her for Christmas. She swiped at it with her finger, then held it up. He left this, on the security camera the night before he died. I found it doing the monthly review. Harrison Blackwood's face filled that little screen, gaunt as a scarecrow, skin yellow as old newspaper. His voice came through tinny and rough. If you're watching this, I'm dead. Good riddance. The girl, Vespera, she's mine. Grace's daughter. I paid them to disappear, but they wouldn't stay gone. Like a bad penny, she turned up right in my own company. Married my son. Cosmic joke, maybe, or punishment from the Almighty. Nathan grabbed that phone, stared at his father's dying face like he was seeing a ghost. Harrison's recorded voice continued. The fire at St. Catherine's. I didn't order it, but I didn't stop it either when I heard it was happening. Thought if the records burned, the problem would solve itself. But there she was, 20 years later, at my own Sunday dinner table, calling me Dad. The video ended. Silence crystallized around us like ice forming on a window. He knew, Nathan said,
slow as molasses. At our wedding, every Christmas, every time he called her daughter-in-law, he knew she was his actual daughter. His fist connected with the nearest wall. I heard knuckles crack, saw blood smear on that white plaster.
Boy had his father's temper, that was certain. Father O'Brien reached into his jacket again. Lord knows how much that old priest had been carrying around. There's more. Grace wrote about it in the letter. Vespera's hands shook as she finally opened that plastic bag. The notebook paper inside looked soft as tissue, like it might fall apart if you breathed on it wrong. Her mother's handwriting sprawled across the page, uneven, like someone writing through pain. My precious baby girl, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. The cancer's eating me from inside out, and I won't last the week. I'm sorry. Sorry for leaving you. Sorry for the mess I've made. Your father is Harrison Blackwood, owns half of Silicon Valley, or near enough. He's also evil in ways that took me too long to understand. When I told him about you, he had his lawyer threaten me. Said he'd have me declared insane, take you away, make you disappear into some institution. Or worse. I ran, came to California where my friend Clementine worked. She's not really my cousin like I told people, we just called each other that. Two girls from Louisiana trying to make it in the big city. She was the only real family I had after my parents disowned me for the shame I brought them. I'm dying, baby. Doctor says it's punishment for my sins. Maybe he's right. But you're not a sin. You're the only pure thing I ever made. I'm giving you to St. Catherine's because Harrison's people won't look there. Orphanages are beneath their notice. Clementine will watch over you if she can, but I've told her to be careful. Harrison has eyes everywhere, money that can buy anything. Don't look for your father's family, either side. The Delacroix people are just as bad. They'd use you like breeding stock, marry you off for business deals. Harrison would destroy you to keep his secret. Let Clementine love you if she can. She lost her own baby 3 years ago. Car accident took little Sarah and her husband Marcus both. She's got so much love with nowhere to put it. Maybe you can help each other heal. Be free, my butterfly. Be everything I couldn't be. All my love forever. Mama Vespera read it 3 times before she looked up. Tears had made tracks through her makeup, and she looked younger somehow, like the scared little girl she must have been in that burning orphanage. Your daughter, she said to Clementine. Sarah, she would have been my age? 3 months older. Clementine's voice carried 23 years of grief compressed into 4 words. Would have graduated college this past spring. So I was your replacement baby. Vespera's laugh came out bitter as black coffee left on the burner too long. Your second chance. Your do-over child. You were Grace's daughter, Clementine said firmly. That's all you ever were to me. Grace's girl who needed looking after. Marcus Thompson cleared his throat. Mrs. Harper never claimed you as her own, never tried to be your mother. Even when she paid my tuition, she said it was because someone needed help and she could help. That's all. But she chose you to help, Eleanor Fitzgerald added, leaning heavy on her walker. Out of all the people in this city who needed help, she chose Grace's girl. Every time. Vespera stood up, unsteady as a newborn colt. Her mascara had run down her cheeks in black rivers, made her look like something out of a horror picture. 20 years. 20 years of you all watching me, managing me, pulling strings behind my back. Protecting you, I corrected. You don't know how many times Harrison's old business partners came sniffing around, or those Delacroix investigators. We turned them all away. The job at Blackwood Industries, Nathan said suddenly, like puzzle pieces clicking together in his head. The internship program. That was you people? Ruby nodded. Clementine asked me to put Vespera's resume on top of the pile. Said she was brilliant, just needed a chance. Had the grades to back it up. I thought I earned it, Vespera whispered. My 4.0 GPA, my interview. I thought I was special. You are special, Clementine said.
Your grades were yours. Your work was yours. We just made sure the door was open. You walked through it yourself. And right into marrying my brother.
Vespera's voice cracked like dry wood in a fire.
My own brother. Did any of you think to stop that?
The silence stretched tight as a clothesline in January. Father O'Brien finally spoke. We tried. The anonymous letter saying Nathan wasn't right for you, suggesting you were moving too fast. The job offer from Google that would have taken you to Seattle. The break-in, Nathan interrupted. Someone broke into my apartment, left that photo of my father with a young woman. That was you people? I had to own up to that one. That was me. Thought if you saw Harrison with someone Grace's age, you'd make the connection. But the photo was too blurry, too old. You couldn't see the resemblance.
You all failed,
Vespera said, flat as roadkill.
Your entire protection network. And you let me commit incest. That word hung in the air like a curse in church.
Several folks in that fancy crowd headed for the exits, couldn't stomach any more. 3 years, Nathan said, staring at nothing.
3 years of marriage. 3 years of...
Nothing, Vespera corrected.
It was nothing. We're nothing.
She turned to Clementine, and for the first time all evening, real rage flickered in her eyes like hellfire.
You should have let me burn in that orphanage. Would have been cleaner than this.
Clementine flinched like she'd been slapped.
Don't say that. Don't you ever say that. Why not? It's true. Look what your protection created. A woman who married her brother. A man who'll never trust love again. A scandal that'll destroy everything we built. She gestured at the crowd, their phones still recording every awful second. By tomorrow morning, we'll be on every news channel in America. The billionaire siblings who didn't know.
The cleaning lady who kept the secret. The dead man who orchestrated it all. Her hand went to her stomach then, just a quick protective gesture, but I caught it. Spent 40 years watching people, you learn to see things. Nathan caught it too. His face went white as fresh paint.
Vespera, are you...
8 weeks, she whispered, so quiet I almost missed it. The ballroom tilted. Someone screamed. Vespera's hand pressed harder against her stomach, where Harrison Blackwood's grandchild and Nathan's child was growing. A child conceived by siblings who didn't know they were siblings.
Lord help us all.
Nathan's knees hit that marble floor hard enough to crack something. Maybe the floor, maybe his kneecaps. I couldn't tell. The sound echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot at a funeral. His hands reached toward Vespera's stomach, stopped inches away, trembling in the air like autumn leaves about to fall. 8 weeks, he repeated, and his voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. The night of the merger celebration. The champagne. Oh God, you've been drinking champagne tonight. Vespera's fingers pressed white against her belly, protective and terrified all at once.
Just 2 glasses. Before I knew. Before any of this.
Dr. Pierce pushed through the crowd. I knew him from the hospital board meetings. Good man, steady hands. We need to get you to a hospital, both of you, right now.
No hospitals.
Vespera backed away, that torn dress dragging behind her like shed skin.
Hospitals mean records. Records mean everyone knows about the baby.
Everyone already knows, somebody in the crowd said, and I saw another phone flash go off. Then another. Like fireflies in summer, except these were capturing misery instead of making light. Clementine moved forward, but her shuffle had gotten worse. Each step looked like it cost her something.
Put the phones down. All of you.
You don't give orders here, said Mrs. Ashford, one of those society women who wore diamonds like armor.
You're the help. I'm the help who knows about your husband's Thursday afternoons at the Fairmont, Clementine said quietly. Room 412. The prescription pills he thinks nobody knows about. Found them behind the toilet tank in the executive bathroom, 3rd stall from the left.
That phone lowered real quick.
And you? Clementine turned to Mr. Davidson from accounting. I know about those receipts you've been doctoring. Every Thursday, billing personal expenses as client dinners? $12,000 last year alone. More phones disappeared into pockets and purses. 20 years of cleaning up after you, Clementine continued, her voice steady as a metronome. You think I just emptied trash cans? I know every secret you've tried to flush away. Every affair documented in deleted emails you thought were gone. Every line of powder wiped off bathroom counters but still leaving residue. Every tears and whiskey breakdown in the supply closet. The crowd shifted like nervous cattle before a storm. Power had changed hands without anybody voting on it. But I never told, Clementine said. Never used what I knew for gain. Never blackmailed, never gossiped. Because that's not why I was there.
She turned back to Vespera, who had sunk to the floor, knees pulled to her chest, protecting that baby like her body was a fortress.
The child, Vespera whispered. It could be damaged, wrong. Like those royal families in Europe who kept marrying cousins until the children came out. It's a baby, Clementine interrupted, firm as a preacher at a baptism. Nothing more, nothing less. A child that didn't ask to be conceived. It's an abomination. Vespera's voice cracked like ice on a pond. My brother's child. My father's grandchild. My mother would be so ashamed. Your mother would love it. Father O'Brien moved closer, his cane tapping out a slow rhythm. Grace loved broken things, incomplete things, things the world called mistakes. He pulled another paper from that seemingly endless jacket of his. Honest to God, the man was like a walking filing cabinet. She wrote this when she found out about the cancer. Before you were born, when she thought you might come out wrong because of all the stress and sickness. The paper was different. Hospital letterhead from St. Mary's, Grace's handwriting steadier than in the death letter. If my child is born different, damaged, sick, imperfect, love them harder. The world will be cruel enough without adding to it. Every child is God's opinion that the world should go on, no matter how dark things get. Easy for her to say, Vespera spat. She didn't have to live with the consequences, didn't have to carry a child that might. Neither do you, Eleanor Fitzgerald said, stepping forward with her walker clicking on the marble. The words hung there, heavy as lead. I saw folks exchange glances, understanding what Eleanor was suggesting. There are options, Eleanor continued, gentle but clear. Legal, safe options. Nobody would blame you given the circumstances. I would, Nathan said suddenly, looking up with eyes red as a drunk's. I would blame myself forever. That's my child. Our child. It's not your choice, Vespera said, cold as January wind. No, he agreed. It's not. But I need you to know, this baby, our baby, it's innocent. We didn't know, Vespera. How could we know? Marcus Thompson stepped forward, his college backpack still on his shoulders. There's something else about the Butterfly Network, something Mrs. Harper had us doing all these years. He pulled out a folder thick as a phone book, papers spilled out across that marble floor, photographs, receipts, thank you cards, medical records. We kept records, Marcus continued, not of secrets to use against people, but of kindnesses. Every person Mrs. Harper helped, every connection made, every life touched. I watched Vespera's face as she saw herself in those photos. Different ages, different stages of life. Outside the college library at 2 a.m. with me in the background making sure she got to her car safe. At her first job interview with Ruby having accidentally left the interview questions where Vespera could see them. At her wedding, Clementine barely visible in the far background, watching from the service entrance like a guardian angel who didn't want credit. We documented everything, Ruby said. Not for blackmail or manipulation. For proof. Proof of what? Nathan asked. That love exists in the shadows, I said, finding my voice. That people take care of each other without reward, without recognition, without even being asked. That's real sweet, someone in the crowd said, sarcasm thick as molasses. But it doesn't change the fact that they're siblings who made a baby together. The words hit like a slap. Vespera curled tighter, her breathing going shallow and quick. Clementine knelt beside her. I heard her knees pop, saw her wince, but she did it anyway. Look at me, baby girl. Vespera kept her eyes squeezed shut. Please, look at me. The endearment, same one from 20 years ago in that fire, broke something in Vespera. Her eyes opened, flooded with tears that made tracks through her ruined makeup. I have kidney disease, Clementine said quietly. From the cleaning chemicals. 20 years of breathing them, absorbing them through my skin. Doctor says I have maybe 6 months without a transplant. The crowd murmured like wind through wheat. Nathan straightened, his businessman mind already calculating costs and solutions.
I'll pay for treatment, he said immediately. Best doctors, best hospital, whatever it takes.
That's not what I'm telling you. Clementine's hand hovered near Vespera's face, not quite touching, like she was afraid the younger woman might shatter. I'm saying everybody's broken somehow. Everybody's carrying poison in their body, or their blood, or their history. But we keep going. We keep loving. We keep protecting each other. Even when we fail? Vespera's voice came out young, lost. Especially when we fail. Clementine's scarred fingers finally touched Vespera's cheek, gentle as a mother with a newborn. I failed to prevent this marriage, but I succeeded in keeping you alive long enough to face it. Father O'Brien cleared his throat, and I knew that sound. He had more news, probably worse. There's one more thing about Harrison Blackwood. Everyone turned to him.
He had other children, the priest said, with other women. The Butterfly Network wasn't just protecting Vespera, he gestured to the crowd. Miranda Walsh, you're Harrison's daughter, 1995. Your mother was his secretary. A woman in pearls gasped, her champagne glass shattering on the floor. Derek Thompson, 1999. Your mother was the company's CFO. A man stumbled backward into the arms of those around him. Susan Martinez, 2001. Jennifer Adams, 2003. All Harrison's children, all unknowing. The ballroom erupted, people staring at each other, doing math in their heads, searching faces for family resemblance. How many? Nathan's voice came out hollow as a reed. 11 that we know of, Father O'Brien said. The Butterfly Network has been watching all of them, making sure they didn't accidentally... He paused, looked at Nathan and Vespera, making sure they didn't fall in love with each other.
We were the ones who slipped through,
Vespera said, and her laugh sounded like breaking glass.
The ones your protection network failed. No, I had to correct that. You were the ones who fell in love before we could stop it. Love. The word hung between them like an accusation or a prayer, depending on how you looked at it. Nathan reached for Vespera's hand, hesitated. Was it? Love, I mean? What we had? She looked at him. Really looked. Not her husband anymore, couldn't be. Her half-brother. The father of her child. The man she'd shared 3 years with before the truth came crashing down. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what was real anymore. Ruby's phone buzzed. She looked at it, and her face went pale as milk. The press is outside. News vans, reporters. Someone leaked everything.
It's already on the internet, spreading like wildfire. Through those tall ballroom windows, I could see the lights, cameras, news trucks, reporters gathering like vultures around roadkill. The scandal of the century, delivered gift-wrapped to their doorstep. We need to leave, Dr. Pierce said urgently. Both of you need medical attention, psychological support. I'm not going anywhere with him, Vespera said, pulling away from Nathan. The baby, Nathan started. Is mine, Vespera cut him off. My burden, my choice, my consequence. She stood up, unsteady as a newborn foal, one hand still protecting her stomach. Looked around that ballroom,
at the butterfly network that had tried to save her, at the crowd that would devour her story, at Clementine, who'd given everything to protect her. "I want to die," she said, simple as stating the weather. The words fell like stones into still water. Clementine struggled to her feet, reaching out, but Vespera stepped back toward those balcony doors. "I'm not going to jump," she said quickly, seeing the panic in our faces. "But I want to. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. Sometimes the pain is too much. Sometimes the shame is too heavy. Sometimes you just want it to stop." She turned to Clementine. "Is that what my mother felt? At the end? Did she want to die?" Clementine's scarred hands clenched and unclenched. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, quiet as a prayer, "Yes." The single word hit harder than any speech could have. "But she didn't," Vespera continued, her voice stronger. "She held on long enough to write that letter, to make arrangements, to ensure I'd be protected." Her voice broke. "Even dying, she was stronger than I am." "You're strong," Clementine said. "You survived the fire. You carried me out. You held on. I had no choice. You have a choice now." Vespera's hand pressed against her abdomen. Inside her, cells were dividing, forming, becoming. A child conceived in ignorance, who would be born into truth. "The Delacroix family," she said suddenly. "My mother's people. They'll come for the baby, won't they, once they find out?" Father O'Brien's silence was answer enough. Through the windows, I could see a black town car pulling up. 3 people in expensive suits got out, moving through the crowd of reporters like sharks through water. The Delacroix family had arrived. The balcony doors rattled as wind hit the building. October wind off the bay, cold and damp as a dish rag. Vespera stood frozen between that ballroom and the night, her hand white-knuckled on the door handle, while down below those Delacroix lawyers were already in the elevator, coming up. "They're here," Ruby announced, looking at her phone. "Charlotte Delacroix herself. Says she's Vespera's aunt, demanding to see her niece." Clementine swayed on her feet. Her hand shot out, caught the wall, and when she pulled it away, there was blood. Not from a cut. This was on her palm where she'd coughed into it. "Mrs. Harper." Marcus stepped forward, but she waved him off with her other hand. "I'm fine." The words came out wet, rattled like coins in a tin can. Dr. Pierce moved fast for a man his age. Took one look at that blood, saw more on her lips. "That's not from a cut. That's internal bleeding." "Kidneys," Clementine said, simple as ordering coffee. "Been getting worse. Blood in the urine started 6 months ago. Coughing it up for 2 weeks now." "You need dialysis," Pierce said, already pulling out his phone. "Tonight, right now. I'm calling an ambulance." "Can't afford to miss work." Clementine straightened up, but that spine of hers, damaged 20 years ago in that fire, wouldn't let her stand tall. "Rent's due Monday. If I miss my shift, I lose the apartment." "I'll pay," Nathan started. "Your money's no good here." Clementine's eyes stayed on Vespera. "Never was, never will be." I pulled out my notebook, been keeping notes on Clementine for months now, worried about her but not knowing how to help. She's been hiding it, working double shifts to pay for other people's medicines while skipping her own treatments. I flipped through pages, reading out loud. September 15th, gave Marina's family $500 for school supplies, canceled her own doctor's appointment. September 22nd, paid for Marcus's textbooks, skipped dialysis. October 1st, covered Ruby's mother's funeral costs, stopped buying her insulin. "You're diabetic too?" Dr. Pierce's voice climbed like a fire siren. "Type 2. Manageable." Clementine coughed again, and the sound tore through her chest like ripping canvas. More blood, bright red against her dark skin. "Everything's manageable if you ignore it long enough." "How long?" Vespera asked, her voice strangled. "How long have you been dying?" "We're all dying," Clementine said, "just at different speeds. Mine picked up pace is all." Father O'Brien tapped his cane against the marble. nervous habit of his when he was upset. The fire. The damage to your lungs from all that smoke, combined with 20 years of breathing cleaning chemicals, created what the doctors call a perfect storm, Pierce finished. Your kidneys are failing because your body's been fighting too many battles for too long. The diabetes just accelerated everything. Clementine's legs gave out. I caught her, felt like catching a bird, she'd gotten so light, and lowered her into a chair someone pushed forward. Her breathing came shallow, each inhale a conscious effort. Should have seen it, Ruby said, tears running down her face. The way she'd pause on the stairs to catch her breath. How she stopped eating lunch, said she wasn't hungry. The bruises on her arms that wouldn't heal. You saw what I wanted you to see, Clementine managed. Same way I watched Vespera, from the shadows, never showing the full picture.
Eleanor Fitzgerald shuffled forward on her walker.
You paid for my chemotherapy. $4,000 you didn't have. Took out a payday loan to cover it. You're alive, Clementine said simply. While you're dying. Fair trade. It's not fair. Vespera's voice exploded out of her. None of this is fair. You gave everything, got nothing. Got to see you grow up. Clementine's eyes found hers, warm despite the pain. Got to keep my promise to Grace. That's not nothing. The elevator dinged. Footsteps in the hallway. Expensive heels on marble. The sound of money walking. The crowd parted as 3 lawyers entered, followed by a woman who looked like Vespera might in 30 years. Same cheekbones, same cold eyes, but with something harder underneath. Vespera Delacroix, the woman announced, voice smooth as aged whiskey. I'm your Aunt Charlotte. We need to discuss your inheritance. She glanced at Clementine, dismissed her with a look. Someone should remove the help. That's when I saw it, the birthmark on Charlotte's neck. Butterfly-shaped, identical to the one Vespera had hidden under her hair. Family resemblance clear as day. She stays, Father O'Brien said, stepping between them. This is a family matter, Charlotte said. She is family, the priest insisted. More than you ever were. Charlotte laughed, and it sounded like ice cracking. The cleaning lady? Please. Clementine struggled to stand. I tried to help her, but she pushed forward on her own, each step deliberate, purposeful. She stopped inches from Charlotte, close enough that the taller woman had to look down to meet her eyes. Grace Mitchell was my shift partner for 3 years, Clementine said. We scrubbed floors, side by side. Ate lunch from the same paper bag when money was tight. Held each other's hair back through morning sickness. Charlotte's perfect composure cracked just a little. Morning sickness? My Sarah. Her Vespera. 8 months apart. Clementine's breathing rattled, but she kept going. We made a pact. If anything happened to either of us, the other would protect both babies. Like sisters would. Like family should. She pulled out a photograph from her pocket, edges soft from years of handling. 2 young women in cleaning uniforms, bellies round with pregnancy, arms around each other's shoulders, laughing at something beyond the camera. That's not Grace, Charlotte said quickly, too quickly. Look closer. Charlotte took the photo with manicured fingers that probably hadn't done honest work in 40 years. The birthmark was there on the younger woman's neck, same butterfly shape. The eyes were Vespera's eyes, 27 years younger. She ran from you, Clementine continued. 17 years old, pregnant, terrified. Came to California because I was here. We'd met at a hospital conference for custodial staff. Can you imagine? Rich Delacroix girl at a janitor's conference, trying to disappear into a new life. Marcus pulled out his folder again. Employment records from St. Mary's Hospital. Grace Mitchell, hired January 1997. Clementine Harper, hired November 1996. Worked the same shifts for 3 years. We shared everything, Clementine said, and her voice got stronger, like the memory gave her strength. 1-bedroom apartment in Oakland. Food when one of us was short. Dreams for our babies. She wanted Vespera to be free, I wanted Sarah to be safe. Her voice caught on her daughter's name. The next words came out raw, bleeding. October 10th, 2001.
Drunk driver ran a red light at Franklin and Hayes. My husband Marcus was driving. Sarah was in her car seat, singing that song from Blue's Clues. Clementine's hands clenched. They died on impact. I was at work. Grace was supposed to be watching Sarah, but she'd taken her along to the grocery store. The ballroom had gone quiet as a church during prayer. Grace held me while I screamed, Clementine continued. Planned their funerals because I couldn't get out of bed, fed me when I stopped eating. And when her cancer came 3 years later, she asked one thing. To take care of me, Vespera whispered. To love you like I'd loved Sarah. To watch you grow up free. Clementine swayed, caught herself. She knew you'd come looking, Charlotte. Knew the Delacroix family would try to claim her baby, mold you into their image. We would have given her everything, Charlotte protested. Everything but choice, Father O'Brien said. I knew Grace those last weeks. She told me about your family, Charlotte. The arranged marriages disguised as love. The business mergers that required grandchildren as collateral. The way Delacroix women were treated like breeding stock with trust funds. He pulled out another paper. Grace's medical records from before Vespera. 3 pregnancies, 3 terminations. All ordered by your family when the fathers weren't suitable for business alliances. Charlotte snatched the paper, scanned it. Her face went white under her makeup. Vespera was her 4th pregnancy, the priest continued. Harrison Blackwood had the right bloodline, the right fortune. Grace knew the family would force her to have the baby, use it as leverage. So she ran, Vespera said slowly. Gave me up to keep me from both families. But kept you close through me, Clementine said. She coughed again, harder this time. Blood splattered onto that white marble floor. Every person in the Butterfly Network has some connection to Grace or to me. We were your family, even if you never knew it. There's more, Nathan said suddenly, staring at Clementine. The kidney. You're a match for Vespera because Grace and I were both type O negative, universal donors, rare blood type. Clementine's legs were shaking now. We tested it once, just curious. Not related by blood, just by choice, by love. Charlotte's control finally snapped. This is ridiculous. She's a Delacroix heir. $8 billion. That I don't want, Vespera interrupted. You can't refuse your birthright. Watch me. Charlotte pulled out her phone. The baby then. The Blackwood Delacroix heir. Will petition for custody based on your situation. What situation? Dr. Pierce asked. The marriage to her half-brother. Clear evidence of unfitness. They didn't know, Father O'Brien said. Doesn't matter. The scandal alone. A new voice cut through the argument. Actually, it does matter. We all turned. Another man had entered, older, wearing a doctor's coat over his suit. He held a folder marked with the St. Mary's Hospital logo. I'm Dr. Richardson, he said, Harrison Blackwood's oncologist. There's something about Harrison you all need to know. Something that changes everything. He opened the folder, pulled out a medical report dated 20 years ago. Harrison Blackwood was sterile, he said. Had been since 1995. Sterile? The word fell from Nathan's mouth like a stone into water. His hands grabbed the medical report from Dr. Richardson, eyes scanning the typed lines. Since 1995? But that's 2 years before Vespera was born. Dr. Richardson nodded, pulling out more papers from his folder. Testicular cancer. Harrison underwent radiation treatment. The dosage was massive. Saved his life, but destroyed his fertility completely. 0 sperm count from that point forward. Charlotte Delacroix stepped back like she'd been slapped. Her lawyers exchanged glances, their whole case crumbling like wet newspaper. Then the birth certificate, Vespera said slowly, her hand still pressed against her stomach. Harrison's name as my father. It's a lie? Harrison believed he was your father, Dr. Richardson continued. The mind can play tricks when a man desperately wants something to be true.
He convinced himself the doctors were wrong, that Grace's pregnancy was proof of a miracle. Clementine coughed from her chair, more blood speckling her lips. Grace never corrected him. Safer to let him believe his lie than admit there was another man. Who? Vespera's voice cracked. Who was my real father? Father O'Brien reached into his jacket one more time. Lord, that man carried more secrets than a confession booth. Grace told me before she died. Made me swear on my mother's grave not to reveal it unless it became necessary to save you. He pulled out an envelope, yellow with age, Grace's handwriting on the front. Only if my baby's life depends on it. The old priest's hands shook as he opened it. Your father was Michael Harper. The name hit the room like lightning. Clementine's whole body went rigid. Michael Harper, Father O'Brien continued.
Clementine's husband, Marcus's father. I felt my knees go weak. Had to grab the wall to stay upright. Michael Harper. I'd known him. Good man, worked construction, devoted to his family. The same man who died in that car accident with little Sarah. No, Clementine whispered. No, that's not. Grace wouldn't. It happened once, Father O'Brien read from Grace's confession. June 1996. Clementine was in Louisiana for her mother's funeral. Grace was staying at their apartment, had been evicted from her own place. Michael came home drunk from a construction site celebration. Grace was drunk too, mourning a miscarriage from Harrison's abuse. Clementine's breathing went ragged, wet. My husband, my Grace, together? They both regretted it immediately. The priest continued reading. Never spoke of it again.
When Grace discovered she was pregnant 3 weeks later, she convinced Harrison it was his, even though she knew it wasn't possible. She couldn't bear to destroy your marriage, Clementine. Couldn't bear to hurt the only real friend she'd ever had. The letter fluttered from Father O'Brien's fingers. Vespera caught it, read the rest herself, her voice hollow. I'm a coward and a sinner. I betrayed the only person who ever truly loved me for myself. But God has a cruel sense of justice. The baby I carry is Michael's, which means if Clementine ever learns the truth, she'll lose her friend and the memory of her husband all at once. I pray she never finds out. I pray my baby never needs to know. Some truths are too heavy for hearts to carry. Vespera looked up at Clementine, whose face had gone gray as ash. You didn't know. Sarah's sister, Clementine said, the words barely audible. You're Sarah's half-sister, Michael's daughter. I've been protecting my husband's child all along. Which means, Dr. Pierce said quietly, Nathan and Vespera aren't related at all. No blood connection. The marriage is valid. The baby is just a baby. The relief that flooded Nathan's face was something to see. He reached for Vespera, but she pulled away. Don't touch me. Her voice was sharp as broken glass. It doesn't matter that we're not blood. 3 years of marriage built on lies. My whole life built on lies. Charlotte cleared her throat, trying to regain control. She's still a Delacroix through her mother. The inheritance goes to charity, Vespera said flatly. All of it. I don't want money built on forced pregnancies and arranged marriages. You can't. I can, and I will. Vespera turned to Clementine, who was slumped in the chair like a broken doll. You knew my father. My real father. What was he like? Clementine's eyes filled with tears. First time I'd seen her cry in 20 years. Good man. Gentle hands, even though they were calloused from construction work. Loved Sarah more than life itself. Used to sing to her every night, old gospel songs his grandmother taught him. She coughed, winced. The night he died, he was going to pick up ice cream for Sarah. Mint chocolate chip, her favorite. If I hadn't asked him to take her along for the ride. Don't, Father O'Brien said gently. That road leads nowhere good. He would have loved you, Clementine said to Vespera. Would have been proud of how smart you are, how strong. Even when you're cruel like he could be, cutting straight to the truth, no patience for pretense. Marcus Thompson stepped forward. That's why you named me Marcus. After him. Clementine nodded. You needed a father figure. Seemed right to give you his name, even if you couldn't have his presence. All these years, Vespera said slowly, you were raising your husband's child without knowing it. Protecting me, helping me, watching me marry and have a career and... She pressed her hand against her stomach. And now I'm carrying his grandchild. Michael's grandbaby, Clementine whispered, and something shifted in her face, pain giving way to wonder. Lord have mercy. Michael's grandbaby. Charlotte made a disgusted sound. This is absurd. A cleaning lady's dead husband, a nobody construction worker. He was somebody, I said, finding my voice. Michael Harper helped build half the schools in this city. Every beam he set, every wall he raised, thousands of kids learned in buildings he made safe and strong. Including the elementary school I went to, Nathan added quietly. I remember seeing the construction workers when I was little. One of them always waved at us kids. He looked at Clementine. Dark skin, bright smile, missing his left pinky finger. Table saw accident, Clementine confirmed. 1994. That was him. He gave me a baseball once, Nathan continued. Said every boy should have a good ball to throw with his dad. Didn't know my dad had no interest in playing catch. Ruby's phone buzzed. She looked at it, frowned. There's something else. The other people Father O'Brien named, Harrison's supposed children. The DNA testing company just posted emergency results. She held up her phone. None of them are Harrison's. Not a single one. He wasn't their father. Then who? Someone started to ask. Different fathers, Ruby read. The mothers all had affairs. Every single one. Harrison either didn't know or didn't care, as long as he could claim the children as his own. He was building a dynasty of lies, Dr. Pierce said. Children who weren't his, claimed for power. Just like he tried to claim me, Vespera said. Even put his name on my birth certificate, knowing it was impossible. Clementine struggled to stand. I moved to help her, but she waved me off again. Each breath sounded like she was drowning in her own lungs. The kidney, she said to Vespera. My kidney. It's a match because Michael and I had the same blood type. Rare coincidence. We used to joke about it. Said we were meant to be together because even our blood agreed. She took a step forward, unsteady. If you need it, for the pregnancy, for complications, it's yours. Michael's daughter should have it. Sarah's sister should have it. It would kill you, Vespera said. You're already dying. I'm dying anyway. Clementine coughed, harder this time. Blood splattered across that expensive marble. At least this way my death means something, saves something, gives Michael's grandchild a chance. Charlotte's lawyers were already backing toward the door. No Blackwood connection, no Delacroix claim without DNA proof. Their case was dead as Harrison himself. Wait, Charlotte said suddenly. She was staring at the blood on the floor, then at Clementine. That blood. You're coughing blood. Kidney failure, Dr. Pierce said. Advanced stage. No, Charlotte said, and her voice had gone strange. That's not kidney failure. I've seen this before. She turned to Dr. Richardson. Test her, right now. Test her for... Clementine collapsed. Full collapse, not the slow sink from before. She hit that marble floor hard, body convulsing, foam tinged pink at her mouth. Call 911, Dr. Pierce shouted, dropping to his knees beside her. She's seizing. But Charlotte was already grabbing Dr. Richardson's arm. Test her for thallium poisoning. Someone's been poisoning her. This isn't kidney disease. It's murder. The paramedics worked on Clementine right there on that marble floor. IV lines and oxygen masks, and words I recognized from my years visiting VA hospitals. Charlotte Delacroix knelt beside them, talking fast about thallium, about symptoms she'd seen in her father 20 years ago when a business rival tried to kill him slow. Hair loss, she was saying. The weakness, the nerve damage. Someone's been poisoning her for months. Dr. Richardson was already on his phone with the hospital. We need chelation therapy ready. Full toxicology panel. If it's thallium, check the cleaning supplies, Charlotte interrupted. That's how they did it to my father. Small amounts in something she'd touch every day. Ruby gasped. The new floor cleaner. Industrial strength came in 6 months ago. Only Clementine uses it because it's so harsh. Marcus was already running toward the service corridor. Smart boy. Going to secure evidence before whoever did this could destroy it. Vespera knelt beside Clementine, took her hand. The older woman's eyes fluttered open, focused with effort. My baby, Clementine whispered. Not talking about Vespera, I realized. Talking to her like she was someone else. Sarah, baby, I'm coming. No, Vespera said firmly. You're staying right here. You're going to meet your grandchild. Michael's grandchild. You hear me? Clementine's eyes cleared a little. Vespera? I'm here. We're all here. The paramedics lifted Clementine onto a gurney. As they wheeled her toward the elevator, she reached up, touched Vespera's stomach with shaking fingers. Tell the baby, she said. Tell them about Michael, about Sarah, about how love finds a way, even through lies. 3 months later. The courtroom was packed for the sentencing. Turns out it was Harrison's own secretary, Miranda Walsh, one of the women who thought she was his daughter. She'd been slowly poisoning Clementine, thinking the cleaning lady knew the truth about her fake paternity. 25 to life, the judge said. No parole for attempted murder with special circumstances. But I wasn't in that courtroom. I was at St. Mary's Hospital, in the recovery ward, watching Clementine take her first real deep breath in months. The chelation therapy had worked. Slow, painful, but it worked. The poison was leaving her system day by day, her kidneys starting to function again. Not perfect. She'd need medication for life, but she'd live. Lord willing, she'd live to see that grandbaby born. Walter, she said, voice still rough but stronger. You been here all night again? Someone's got to keep an eye on you, I said. Make sure you don't try to give away any more organs. She smiled. First real smile I'd seen from her in months. How's Vespera? 5 months along now, healthy. She and Nathan are in counseling, trying to figure out if their marriage can survive all this truth. And the network? Stronger than ever. Marcus got everyone organized. We're official now. The Butterfly Foundation. Help kids aging out of foster care. Single parents trying to make it. Even got some of those rich folks from the gala donating. Clementine nodded, satisfied. Then her face got serious. I need to tell you something, Walter. About that night. The fire. I leaned closer. I knew, she said. When I saw Vespera's face, even as a baby, I could see Michael in her features. The way her eyes crinkled when she cried. The shape of her hands. You knew she was his? Suspected. But Grace was my friend. My only friend. And Michael was gone. What good would the truth have done? She looked out the window, where San Francisco fog was lifting to reveal a clear morning. So I loved her as Grace's daughter. Turns out that was the same as loving her as Michael's. Love doesn't divide. It multiplies. The door opened. Vespera walked in, her pregnancy showing now under a simple cotton dress. No more designer clothes. Nathan was with her, carrying a box. We brought something, Vespera said, setting the box on Clementine's bed. Inside were photos, hundreds of them. The Butterfly Network had been collecting them, pictures of everyone Clementine had helped over 20 years. Thank you cards from kids who'd gone to college, families who'd kept their homes, people who'd gotten the medical care they needed. This is your real legacy, Vespera said. Not the cleaning you did, but the lives you changed. At the bottom of the box was something else. A butterfly pendant, brand new, with 3 small gems. One for Sarah, one for Vespera, one for the baby coming. "The network voted," Nathan said. "You're officially the butterfly mother, the one who started it all." Clementine's eyes filled with tears. Good tears this time. "There's more," Vespera said. She pulled out an ultrasound picture. "It's a girl. We're naming her Grace Sarah Harper Blackwood." "Harper?" Clementine looked confused. "Your last name, Michael's name." Vespera took her hand. "She should carry the name of the people who really loved us, not the ones who just claimed us." 6 months after that, I stood in the Blackwood Industries cafeteria, renamed the Harper Community Center, holding little Grace Sarah while her parents attended the ribbon cutting for the new employee health clinic. Clementine sat beside me, still moving, careful, but moving. She was back to work, but different now, teaching other cleaners, making sure they had proper safety equipment, organizing the union she'd always dreamed about. The Butterfly Network had grown to over 200 people, not secret anymore, but public, proud, taking care of each other in the light instead of the shadows. "She has Michael's eyes," Clementine said, looking at the baby. "And Grace's smile," I added, "and Vespera's stubborn chin." We laughed, 2 old people who'd seen too much, but somehow found ourselves here, in this moment of peace. Through the windows, San Francisco stretched out beneath clearing skies. The city where a scared teenage mother had fled to have her baby, where a cleaning lady had pulled a child from fire, where secrets had nearly destroyed a family, but love had somehow saved it. Little Grace Sarah gurgled in my arms, reaching for the butterfly mobile Clementine had made for her. 3 butterflies, past, present, and future, dancing in the afternoon light. "You know what I learned from all this?" Clementine asked. "What's that?" "The roughest hands really do give the softest embraces. And sometimes the people serving you lunch or cleaning your office are the angels assigned to watch over you." She smiled, touching the baby's tiny fingers. "We just have to have eyes to see them." The baby wrapped her hand around Clementine's scarred finger and held on tight, like she'd never let go. And in that moment, in that simple cafeteria with its scarred formica tables and fluorescent lights, I felt the presence of everyone we'd lost. Michael, Sarah, Grace, nodding their approval. The network had held. The truth had set them free. And love, complicated and messy as it was, had found a way through. Friends, I need to tell you what happened after that night at the Fairmont. The Butterfly Network didn't disappear. It transformed. Every Thursday now, the Harper Community Center hosts Connection Lunch. No reserved tables. CEOs sit with custodians. Lawyers share dessert with landscapers. That baby, Grace Sarah, she's walking now. Toddles between tables, doesn't see the invisible lines we adults draw. Yesterday, I watched her hand a cookie to a janitor, then crawl into a board member's lap for a story. No difference to her. Clementine's still with us, thank the Lord, teaches young folks that service isn't servitude. It's love in work clothes. The network grew to 300 members. We don't hide anymore. We help in daylight. This story is a work of fiction, inspired by tales of hidden kindness created solely for entertainment purposes. It does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence or harmful behavior. All characters and events are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The story aims to celebrate human dignity, the value of service workers, and the power of community support across social divisions.